Hello there, guys. Welcome to the live stream today. Been watching gold here a little bit, so we'll go over a bit of pricing on gold. Currently shorting the US dollar right now against sort of commodity currencies like the Australian dollar. I've also been looking at a potential long on Kiwi dollar as well, so we'll go take a look at those in a moment. I did fancy a cheeky buy on a yen pair, so we'll go take a look at that as well very, very shortly. But guys, welcome to the chat today. Welcome to the live stream. We've got some good topics to talk about today, including the recent GDP data out of the US. But let me know what you're trading today. What's your top currency pair? Drop that in the chat. I'm going to put mine in there as well. I'm going to say my one for right now is, I'm going to put top currency pair for me right now, New Zealand US dollar. I really like the idea of being a buyer of Kiwi dollar. And I'm looking to be a buyer right now. So we'll go take a look at it in a second. But yeah, say hello, guys. Let me know if you're in. Hi, CG. How you doing? Looking at GU. Nice. You're looking at longs or shorts on that one? I actually took a short on it yesterday and did about 55 pips of profit to the downside. So we'll go take a look at that. Yeah, basically had a decent short on that, trading off the sort of the hourly time frame. Basically looked at this area here. I'll just put it 50-50 over the screen so you can kind of see it. But yeah, essentially here, this nice little breakout into that daily high structure. We then broke to the downside, and I looked at the retest of these kind of highs around about 127.65 and these recently broken lows, and the market rejected it, closed below the 50 on the hourly. So ended up taking a short position, came out for 52 pips there. My overall target was down towards this zone at 60 pips where I was going to look for a long opportunity. But that basically comes off of that daily chart on cable. I really like the idea of being a buyer. But I was looking at the daily chart and the 4-hour time frame. Me, I like to be long from lows, short from highs. So this area in here was interesting to me for cable today. And I haven't quite managed to jump on an entry here, though. What I should have been looking at really was this 15-minute break in structure and break in trend when we started to kind of breach these highs in here. That's where I should have been really looking to kind of get involved with the more with the market. So and not in this trade at the moment. I'll have to give it a little bit more breathing room, see if it comes back. The 4-hour time frame starting to push back to the upside here, but maybe we could get something where the 4-hour comes back. Maybe have a little look at a long there as well. So yeah, but this 4-hour level at the moment around about that 127 handle seems to be acting as support. So I do quite like longs on this market right now. Dollar data's coming in a little bit on the bearish side of things, which is good for dollar selling opportunities. GDP came in at 1.3% in the US. So yeah, that's helped fuel a couple of different things. One of those being the Australian dollar. This is my current position on this market. I'm basically looking to trade it up into this pocket of volume that was built between 66.40 and 66.60. Basically, this volume that was built over yesterday is what I'm looking to target with this move. But essentially, again, looking at the daily time frame first, what has price been doing? Well, we're in a pretty tight trading range here, but we came back into previous lows yesterday, so or today, sorry. And I like the idea of being long from lows. So all I did was waited for an opportunity, and this time I used the 30-minute chart. And what I was looking at was this potential for the market to form a higher low. And then, yeah, so basically bought the the close of this bearish candlestick, because I like the idea of the fact that, oh, I didn't mean to do that. I like the idea that we had a sort of nice sort of pin candle there, rejection of lower prices. That's what that's showing us essentially. So yeah, this is my current Aussie US dollar position as well. If my mouse wants to work, hopefully I think my mouse has just died. Oh my, I think my mouse has just died. Let me know if you can still hear me, guys. I hope it's not my computer, but everything else is moving. I think my mouse has literally just died on me. I should be hardwired, really. But, you know, I like to have no wires on my desk, and this is the cost of having no wires on my desk. Would it be a stream with me without any kind of technical hiccup, though? Always got to have a little technical issue going on. Oh, come on. My mouse has literally died. I might have to go and get some batteries. Well, we're stuck on AUUSD for the minute. We're just chilling. We're just having a look at the the price potentially going up towards targets, which is great. You know, I was about to show you my screen with the trade on, but it's, yeah. I might have to go and get some replacement batteries, guys. Okay. Yeah, it seems to be fully dead right now. Right. So I can't change anything right now. I'll go and get some batteries in a second. But yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Vincent. Hope you're doing well. Jeffrey, hope you're doing well. Thanks for letting me know that you can still hear me. That is good. I thought my whole computer had just kind of packed in. Let's try it one more time. If not, I will have to go and get some batteries. Come on. No, it's definitely not working. Well, that's just unfortunate. Right, guys, you're going to have to bear with me a few minutes. I'm just going to go and see if I've got some batteries, first of all. Otherwise, we're just going to have a live stream talking about Aussie US dollar and only Aussie US dollar. Is anyone trading Aussie US dollar right now? Joffrey wants to take a look at dollar Swiss and Swiss yen. Those are good pairs to have a little look at the moment. I quite like the idea of looking at those. Obviously, the Swiss franc's become very, very strong recently. We had some CPI data out of Switzerland this morning, and that seems to have been a good driver for the Swiss franc right now. Maybe the market's thinking that after they cut rates, how is that going to impact sort of consumer spending and whatnot going forward? But I'll be back in a second. So yeah, just bear with me. Right, I've returned. Let's see if this works. Surely there's got to be USB-C rechargeable batteries on the market now, I guess. We have life. Apologies about that, guys. Did not expect that to be the thing that brought the stream down today. It's usually the Wi-Fi. So yeah, good afternoon, Vincent. Good afternoon, Geoffrey. Welcome to the live stream. Yeah, let's go take a look at some charts then. So obviously we kind of already discussed a little bit of cable. Looks like we're going to see some upside. Again, got some good volume up towards this sort of 127.40 handle. You know, we'll just pop a volume profile down here. Seems to be breaking into that lower volume area. So good targets, I think, would be up towards 127.50, potentially between that and 127.60. So that consolidation zone there would be, I think, a good level to target if you're going to be a pound buyer. But let's go have a little look at dollar Swiss. Pushing to the downside at the moment, really kind of giving dollar a rod for its money at the moment. And this was something that, you know, I like the idea of being long above 0.92. Haven't quite claimed that level above there right now. That to me is quite concerning if I was going to be long dollar Swiss right now. But we know that we don't want to be long from highs. So the market is now starting to push back. Whether we find support again down towards this 0.9 level, that'll be interesting. You know, does the market still feel that the Swiss franc could weaken a little bit? You know, potentially because of those rate cuts and maybe potential future rate cuts. Now, those future rate cuts might be on the back burner now because of that rising CPI data. So maybe we would see a little bit of a move towards this 0.9 handle, but I wouldn't want to be short here, right? I'd want to be short back towards these highs. Again, for me, it always comes down to risk and reward. You know, if I'm trying to get short right now down into an area of support, well, I can't target this support here because there's not enough room for me to make a profit. You know, I have to go and target down towards this 0.89 handle. And we kind of discussed this before. You know, for me, the market moves between consolidations and volume. So it rallies, consolidates, rallies, consolidates, rallies, big consolidation. And these consolidations are big areas of volume. So for me, I like the idea of price maybe coming and trying to target these volume levels, especially when we break trend. Okay. So if we can break 0.9 handle, then I do think that these levels down here would be targets for those sellers. But I'd want to see price break below that first. You know, alternatively, what we could even look for is a little bit of a rally. You know, if price comes down into this zone here, do we go to the lower time frames and do we see those kind of changes in conditions which suggest the market is being back, sort of being bought back from that 0.9 handle, especially from a daily time frame point of view. But let me know how you feel about that, Geoffrey. Are you looking to are you looking at a similar idea, or are you looking at something a little bit different? Let me know. What's interesting about if we take a look at Switzerland in general, and we have a little look at the 10-year yields, there's my bonds down here. We've actually seen an increase in the bond yields on the Swiss. So, you know, I'm expecting a bit of a continuation. We're above that sort of 50 moving average as well. So other things that we can probably kind of signal from this is the fact that we've tried to breach lower and it failed to do so. Market has continued higher. So the Swiss National Bank cut rates in March around this time here. And we did see a decline in those bond rates down towards those lows that were formed back in December of 2023. But now we're starting to move higher again. We're even kind of breaking, I guess, sort of traditional trend line resistance here, and now starting to kind of breach to the higher to the upside. And what do we know about bonds? You know, if bonds and the currency tend to have a positive correlation. So if the Swiss franc bonds are breaking out and heading up towards key areas, what does that tell us? Well, it tells us that potentially that the Swiss franc is going to get stronger. And if the Swiss franc is going to get stronger, then we could be looking to see dollar Swiss continue to the downside, especially in the near term, with potentials for the market to kind of breach this 0.9 handle and then come down to these kind of levels below. Hopefully that makes sense, Joffrey. Hi, Melvin. I hope you're doing well. Let's go flick over to Swiss yen then. You know, Swiss yen was a big topic for us at one point. And Swiss yen could be a good market to watch, considering that you've got the dynamic between the yen and the Swiss franc. Again, if you're going long in this market, you're going to have those positive swaps. Not as positive as if you were going to go long on, let's say, CAD yen. But it's still the potential idea for price to come up towards that 175 handle again. You can see those highs that came in. And I think this is definitely going to depend on how dollar yen plays out as well. If we go have a little look at dollar yen right now, it is trading to the downside. It's kind of come up towards that sort of 158 and starting to push back a little bit. I did like longs on this, to be honest. I did like longs on this today. But it looks like prices sunk a little bit lower. So I like the idea of being long around about 156, 156.50 this morning. And I was looking for a bit of a cheeky long after this huge downside on the sort of open of the European play. And we did get it initially. We did get that little bit of a rally up. But since then, price has just gone sideways and then obviously continued to fall. So yen strength still in the market today, but I don't think that's right now. We are seeing things that could obviously fuel this. If we go down to the volatility index and have a little look at what the VIX is doing right now, which is actually at the top here. The VIX has started to come higher again. We're starting to push higher again on the VIX. Let me just put it on a line chart so you can see it. So we've come off that sort of low around about 12.12 and we're starting to head back up. So what does that tell me? You know, volatility index rising usually sees the market move more towards safe haven assets like the yen, for instance. We usually see stock markets decline in those conditions as well, which is what we have been seeing. If we go have a look at the US stock markets, for instance, we can see that on the S&P 500 we've dropped down over the past couple of days. We kind of formed that high. I think we had a question about this on Tuesday about where do we see the S&P 500 or at least the S&P futures, and price action suggested a little bit more downside in the market to come, especially because we had this kind of channel breakout. And then the market basically came and sort of tested the highs here and failed. And then obviously with the sort of idea that interest rate cuts from the Fed are being pushed back quite a way back. I think if we have a little look at the CME watch tool right now, we can have a little look at and determine whether the market participants are seeing where they're kind of positioning themselves. So obviously June, July, there was expected a bit of an easing in July. You know, it was a lot more than this, but that has changed. You know, I'm pretty sure when we looked at this last month, it was around about 40% expected easing. That has now reduced down to 14.3%, 84.6% chance of no change. If we go to September, this is where it starts to change. But again, September was priced in as a little bit differently. There was almost like an 80% chance of a cut in September. That is now 50-50. So that's quite interesting for us to kind of analyze that and think, well, will they cut rates in November? Now, that is going to be the interesting topic because we have the election in the US in November. So will they cut before the election? So when is the election this year? Let's have a look. Election day US. So it's on the 5th of November, 2024. So Tuesday, the 5th of November, we're getting the US election. And the meeting is on the 7th of November. So are they going to cut around a political event? You know, that's something we have to think about. maybe they'll do it because it is a political move. You know, whether we see whoever get in power, they might put the Fed under pressure. Now, the Fed aren't meant to consider politics. They are meant to be impartial. They are not meant to get involved with politics at all. That's why the Fed was created. But you know, we've seen in the past that sometimes these things can go hand in hand. You know, so we've seen it in the UK, for instance. There was a big announcement of a general election pretty much the same day that we had inflation rates coming down. So, you know, politics can use these economic sort of statements to fuel their agendas. So are we going to see something in the same in the US? I think if we don't get a cut before November, I don't think we're probably going to see a cut this year. And we were going to go from having potentially 4 cuts this year to 0. And I think that's going to be a very, very interesting move in the markets. So I still feel maybe September, November, December is going to be pretty strong for the US dollar. So, you know, let's make a note of that. And if I'm wrong, I will eat my words. But I think we're going to see a pretty strong dollar towards that point. But how is it going to affect the stock market? You know, how is it going to affect the stock market? And we could see a little bit more downside before we see the larger term sort of correction. You know, I'm looking at this daily chart right now, and again, I'm trying to ask myself, where would I want to be long in stocks right now? I mean, Nvidia's been performing pretty well, and the Nasdaq took a little bit of a nosedive, and Nvidia was the kind of the big driver behind the Nasdaq recently. But we have come into some recent lows there. Whether that's a good point of looking for an idea in here, but you know, we broke that 50 MA. The last time we kind of broke that 50 MA was back through here, and we did see a little bit more downside as well as these kind of points. So I think if we breach lower, kind of like this volume down towards that sort of 18k level, that could be a good area to look for ideas in the market. You know, on a daily time frame, that's going to be somewhere around here. That sort of pullback before seeing the continued run up. Same with the S&P 500, really. Can we get maybe a little bit of a pullback into the 5.2s or something like that? Maybe somewhere in and around this area for the stock market for a continuation to the upside potential. Hi, Ratish. I'm doing really well, thank you. How are you? Right, let's see. What currency pair do you want me to go and have a little look at you next? I'm going to leave it up to fate if we're... Let's bring it in. I like using the spinning wheel now. So what currency pairs you want to see on the spinning wheel? Let me know what you want me to analyze. I can put it in the wheel along with some other pairs, and then we can go through which ones we can talk about in today's video. Just keeping an eye on Aussie US dollar, starting to retrace a little bit from that area that I was looking at before. Starting to come back a little bit, but I'm not too worried about that. Quite like the idea of price still coming up towards those volume levels, towards that 66 sort of 50 handle. I'm just going to set an alert there. Okay. Doing well. Right. I'm going to leave it up to this then. Let's see what we're going to analyze next. See if it's a currency pair we haven't actually analyzed. Well, we've already talked about Aussie US dollar. Let's take Aussie off the chain. Let's take this off. Dollar yen. I'll leave cable on there and stuff. Let's add a few more charts. I'm going to add CAD yen. I like the idea of being a buyer of CAD yen, so I'm going to leave that one on there. Let's have a little look. German 40. Okay, so we're going to go take a look at $CAD. Okay, so I'm going to change up $CAD. We're going to put in the 40. Let's go take a look. Here we go. So I actually really like the idea of getting short again. I know I've been obsessively short with $CAD recently, and depending on how you trade this, it would have been a good thing or a bad thing. Now, I like the idea of being a seller on rallies because we're seeing obviously a lot of weakness in the oil market, and we've done lots of comparisons in the past of how oil market moving lower is a sign of potential downside on $CAD. We do a lot of comparisons and we have a little look at correlations, and this is one of those. You know, if I just delete all the data off of this, and if we go up to the compare tool here and I bring in $CAD, okay, and all I'm going to do is make this a line chart as well. I'm going to pin this to the left hand side, okay, and I zoom out a little bit. You can see the correlation between the two. So the orange line is US dollar CAD, the white line is oil, and you can see the correlation. When we do start to see oil prices starting to move lower, we see $CAD starting to move lower. Now we've been in a bit of a range, and so technically $CAD has as well between these kind of highs. It's been more of sort of a downward move sort of channel, I guess, more than anything. But we're starting to see a little bit more downside in oil again, which makes me want to continue to be a seller of CAD, and especially $CAD. You know, potentially like the idea of buying CAD yen, but we'll see if we go and have a little look at that in a bit. But yeah, I like the idea of being a seller of $CAD. So when I go up to $CAD, I'm looking at the prices. I'm always trying to find areas of where I'd want to be short. Okay, so really speaking, anything below 136, I think is a good shorting idea. But where's the market kind of coming into at the moment and then sort of moving away from? Now, if we look at these kind of daily swing highs recently, anywhere around 137.30 has been a good area to get in. We've seen selling pressure coming in as the market's rallying. So we've recently come up into that 137.30. And typically what I look for at those points is changes in trend, right? So if we look at the previous level, what happened? Well, price came into this zone, it consolidated. What did it do? It broke to the downside. So in that situation, I'd pretty much be looking to short below those lows, or even a break below the 50 MA is a good idea to get short. And you can see the market obviously moved quite nicely to the downside there. You know, that's looking in hindsight. But I also like to look for the same thing again. So you've got this situation here right now where the market has come into that daily resistance zone, and we've come in, we've then formed a bit of a head and shoulders pattern, almost like this, sort of head and shoulders. And then the market started to push down. So I actually wanted to get short $CAD, but because of the dollar data and I was already exposed to Aussie US dollar, I didn't get involved. But I would have got involved on the lower high here, you know, below that sort of bullish candlestick. Stop loss, we could have gone above the zone, sort of about 30 pips. And then we could have looked to have tried to target down towards that swing low there. Alternatively, if you're looking at, you know, trying to day trade from these type of levels, you could have gone to the 15-minute time frame, and you can see, look how price reacts. You've got markets making higher highs and higher lows into that level. We get my favorite ever trading pattern, which is the double top pattern, and then price breaks lower, and you could have looked to retest on the neckline. And if you were doing that, you know, that would have paid really good dividends there. You would have, or even if you look for the 50 MA break, stop losses above the swing highs, you know, up in here, you're up about sort of 1.1, maybe even the 1.2s right now. So there's different ways of being able to trade these types of levels, but I always like to look at those swing highs and swing lows just because it gives you areas in the past where you know there's been a change in price. And, you know, $CAD's a good sort of level to see that from. Now, because we are getting a push from there, I've missed this move. So I like to look around to see if there's any other sort of opportunities. And one opportunity I really like is CAD yen. Okay, so I like the idea of being a buyer on CAD yen, right? And the reason why I like being a buyer of CAD yen is because when I look at across the currencies, what I try and do is identify, especially when I'm looking at miners. So what do the miners equal? They equal the sort of a major currency pair plus a major currency pair. So in this instance, CAD yen is equal to dollar CAD and dollar yen. So what I'm essentially trying to do here is identify what's going on in these two markets to be able to go over to the miner, right? Or the cross pair, which is that CAD yen. So we've just took a look at dollar CAD. Dollar CAD was at resistance. We've had a little look at dollar yen. Dollar yen was at support. Let me just go flick back over to dollar yen. This support area down through here. Okay, that 156 handle. So if you've got those two at support and one at resistance, what does that mean? Well, it means that we can probably look for a long idea when it comes to CAD yen. Okay, so that's what I'm looking for right now. I'm looking for a little CAD yen long to see if we can get in on a potential opportunity with targets being those key swing highs, and then looking for sort of stops below those swing lows. So if I go back to the CAD yen price here, we can see that the market has come into this area. And what do I look for at this point? Well, I look for one or two things. I look for changes in trend, and I look for price to come back to key areas of support and resistance. So if we go to the 15-minute time frame, what I find quite interesting about this is the market has rallied, okay, from that level. Now, we haven't technically made a new high here, right? We haven't technically made a new high, but have we made the higher low now? The market coming into this area, coming back into that sort of demand zone where buyers were stepping back in, failing to close significantly below. Is that going to be the catalyst to push prices higher now? So for me, I like the idea of seeing something like this on CAD yen, break above that 50 MA, push higher, and then a continuation from that point. So let me know if you understood that. Let me know if that made sense. Let me know your feelings around CAD yen as well. I also like the fact that we're away from the 50 MA. So maybe a bit of a mean reversion trade up to that point as well. Could be something to look for. But that's why I like CAD yen right now. I like the fact that dollar yen is at support. Okay. If it holds support, great. We could be seeing a move back to the upside. Looks like we've had a big sort of push lower and buyers have stepped back in again at that point. And then if we go over to dollar CAD, we're at resistance. We're trading away from resistance. So yeah, I like the idea of being long CAD yen off the basis of this kind of two opposing ideas on those majors. Okay, because dollar CAD moving lower could be classed as CAD strength. Dollar weakness. Dollar yen moving higher could be dollar strength, yen weakness. Okay, so we're kind of trading those opposing ideas there. Right, let's bring back the trading wheel. Let's take off a couple of those. Let me know if that was all right. If you could leave the stream a like, I'd really, really appreciate that. So we'll take CAD yen off there now. Dollar CAD's off there. Let me know any other currency pairs that you want me to take a look at. We've done the S&P 500, so we can take that off. Leave gold on there. Let me know some of your favorite currency pairs. We'll go pound Oz. I know that's a popular one. Euro pound, maybe. Okay, let's give it a spin. Well, hey, there you go, Joffrey. German 40. There we go. Let's go and have a little look at that then. Let's go and have a look at the DAX. So, yeah, I think that obviously the last time we spoke about the DAX was maybe this area down through here, and price has been fairly bullish since. So let's take off the drawing tools and we'll have a little look. So weekly pushing higher. I mean, nothing really too much here. Obviously, the DAX is going to benefit from the fact that the ECB are really likely to cut rates next week. There's like I think it's like is it an 80% chance of ECB cutting next week? Let's have a look. Yeah, so the market is currently pricing an 80% probability of a rate cut in June, with about 75 basis points of cuts for this year. So we're probably going to see a 80% chance of a 25 basis points cut. That's obviously going to help influence the Eurozone economy, especially the German economy. The German economy needs a bit of boosting right now. And we did get some data out earlier out in the day. Let me just have a quick look on the Eurozone. Yeah, so we had unemployment rate kind of holding. We've had, I've turned the countries off. So we'll just grab, I think we had some data out of Spain today as well. I think it was Spain CPI. Yeah, Spain inflation rate was okay. I'm trying to see what the German inflation rate was. German inflation rate. Yeah, so German's annual inflation rate actually rose to 2.4%, matching those forecasts. And consumer sentiment improved to a 2-year high. Okay, so that's an anticipation of those rate cuts coming into play from the ECB, and that's what we kind of see in this kind of move in here is because of the back of that. So if cuts are coming, then European equities should do better. So, again, just kind of try and identify those levels that you want to be involved in the market. Yeah, we've got this kind of supporting zone down through here between sort of 18.3s down to the sort of 18k level on the DAX. So I wouldn't mind being long there. What I'd be looking at is my lower time frame, because you can see that we're in that sort of downward phase right now. And all I'd be looking for is to see, do my lows stop getting lower? Okay, because that's what you want to see. If the market comes up a little bit more, pulls back down, maybe fails to break below the low and starts pushing higher, that's where I'd be interested in being a buyer again of the DAX. Ideally within this zone as well. So if the market comes up, back down in that zone, and then we start to see that sort of failure of new lows being formed, then that's what I'm more interested in here, because the market shouldn't be making lower lows if it's going to press higher. That's the sort of idea around technical analysis. It shouldn't really produce those lower lows if we're going to see higher prices. So that would be an area I'd be looking at on the DAX. I'd be looking for an idea around there. Now, something as well that you can look at if you are looking at sort of the European zone and sort of the overall condition of the European market is by looking at the Euro stocks. So if you look at the stocks 50, for instance, if it loads, there we go. Stocks 50 has also been performing pretty well, really, really well, especially from January this year. We're up 13%, nearly 16% at the highs there. So that's a very, very good year on the stocks 50. So I'd like the idea of seeing a bit more upside to this market as well, if we are going to get that in line. So you've got this kind of zone down through here. And I imagine if the stocks 50 gets to these lows, the DAX would be in that sort of support zone. and we could see a little bit more of a move there in European equities. VIX is actually coming down a bit now, 1.75%. So maybe we are going to start seeing that flip of that safe haven trade that we've seen earlier. Let me just quickly flip back to US dollar yen, see if we're getting any kind of continuation of that move. Yep, you can see, look at that 30-minute time frame. So that could be a good area. You know, again, if we look at the 15-minute time frame, we didn't quite get the higher high formation here. We do have a minor high at this level though. So if we do see maybe a move into that high pullback, maybe the next sort of higher low could be a good move to look for on US dollar yen. Okay. Any other markets you want to take a look at, guys? I'll get the wheel back out. Wherever it may be. I think I deleted it. So we've discussed the DAX. We've discussed a little bit of cable already. Just got a few more to go through. Okay, euro dollar. Right, let's go take a look at euro dollar then. So yeah, I did like shorts on euro dollar yesterday, I must admit. You know, again, just kind of looking at the overall sort of picture of the market, what was going on. We had a kind of a daily rejection up here towards that 108.80s. So I did like the idea of being short here. And again, very, very simple. Just waited for price to come into this daily level of resistance. And then if you go to the 30-minute time frame, you can see that price formed a head and shoulders pattern. Now, we actually discussed this in the webinar last Tuesday, or live stream, sorry, last Tuesday. And, you know, I think someone was asking me if they would go long. And I think I said I'd only go long into this area of resistance because it looks like a head and shoulders pattern was forming. So that formed. I ended up getting short. Stop loss of 30 pips down towards the daily swing lows, very similar to what happened on cable. So yeah, that was a nice little move in there. Now we've got a kind of similar situation going on here, albeit we did actually make new lows. We did break structure there. So maybe the upside's going to be a little bit limited. Maybe we're going to see price kind of come into this structure here, where you've got that kind of pause in the market before a continuation. That's just basically this consolidation here, this volume that had been built. So maybe we'll see very similar to what we're looking at on Aussie dollar, maybe like a move into that, maybe a move outside of that then. But this is where obviously the volumes have been built, and that could be a good area for targets for any kind of longs on euro dollar at the moment. Again, did try and look at potential longs on this today, but I wasn't comfortable that price was trading below those daily swing lows. You know, we breached it to the downside. So for me, although we did kind of snap back quite quickly in the European session, I wasn't fully convinced of the buying opportunity here. You know, if I go and compare that to Aussie US dollar or cable, you know, at least these came into the zones and held the zones, whereas euro dollar didn't quite hold that zone. So, you know, that's why I was focusing more on the Australian dollar market than I was on euro dollar. Joffrey, is your strategy mainly intraday or swing? I have a different style. You know, for me, I like to look at higher time frame areas, and then I'll go in on lower time frames to try and increase my risk to reward. But also, you know, I don't mind doing a bit of day trading. I think if I've got some spare time, I try and day trade, and that comes from sort of, and I mainly kind of focus on sort of gold and euro futures. But I haven't really had much time to day trade recently. There's been lots of data. I've been doing a lot of analysis and whatnot. So and a lot of research. So I've been more kind of leading back towards swing trading again from sort of daily and 4-hour highs and lows. But I'm always trying to identify where these volume areas are in the market, because I do feel like the market is attracted to those points, you know, very much like that consolidation in here. You know, that's volume being built in the market. So when we extend away from a period of volume, I like to look for the reversion back to those areas. And that's where buying from lows, selling from highs, you know, that's a good way to look at it, because I like to look at where would you want to be involved in the market at different points. So this is a 4-hour time frame. But if I was to say to you, point out those areas where you'd want to be long or short in the market, you're always going to point out the lows and the highs. You're not going to try and point out anywhere in the middle here. I do have a sort of strategy on the 50 MA. That's why I've got it on here. You know, if the market is in a trending condition as well, I like to be a buyer above the 50 MA. It just can be a little bit more tricky, because a moving average is only showing us the average of the past 50 candles. You know, so if I was trying to buy, let's say like here, 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 and here, you know, I was on the right side of the overall trend, but I may have been stopped out depending on where my stop was on this move down before a continuation up. Whereas if I was just trying to buy from this swing low here, then my risk is essentially minimized at that point. I look more for add-in trades of that value. So let's say I got in long here. If we had a break and retested the 50 and I added a position, you know, I might get stopped on that second position, but my first position is still in. You know, maybe I buy again here, and then if it does go, I've got the idea of building a position into the market. So I always think as well, try and risk less initially, and then when the market does go in your favor, that's when you can try and size up a little bit. So that's the way I try and do that, you know. But for me, you know, look at this daily chart. Where would you want to be long and short from? You're always going to pick these highs and low points. So I always feel like it's good to do business around those areas. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Anyway, it's a bit discretionary, I must admit. I trade a little bit more on sort of the overall kind of fundamentals that I feel going in the market, and strength and weakness, and then try and look at technicals in terms of highs and lows, essentially. Sorry, guys, got something mail on there. Right then, guys. So this is what I was going to show you earlier, actually. This is the Aussie US dollar trade. Looking for a little bit more upside in this right now. We are coming back to the 200 MA. So this is just a Bollinger Band on here. Looking at the mean reversions. So we came down into those levels there, rejected. We're just back to the mean reversion there. But I'm looking to see if we can target that volume zone up in there. So see if that can continue up. Let's have a little look at our dollar yen. Let's see what dollar yen's up to. Feel like we're starting to see a rebound. Boom. Oh, that's dollar CNH. Starting to see a little bit of a rebound here. Let's have a little look at CAD yen. And we'll end it. So look, we tried to attack that high. Price hasn't breached it with a close yet. But if we do get above it, I think that's definitely a play that I want to be eyeing up on CAD yen. So keep an eye on that one. Right, any more questions, guys? Any more questions? I'm going to bring back the wheel. Let's do one more wheel. let's not do oil. We've kind of covered oil. I see bearishness in oil. It's already at the highs. Good short, I think. Oh, euro yen. Has anybody traded euro yen lately? Let's have a little look. Euro yen is fairly down at the moment. I mean, that was a long time ago we looked at the technical analysis there. Right, I have to go to a 4-hour time frame to pick out any decent level here. I imagine it's all very similar to the likes of CAD yen. We can definitely see there's some like support down towards this kind of area here, around about 169.25. Kind of holding here at the moment. But again, you know, we're breaking the 50 MA. I like the idea of maybe being a buyer, but maybe backing towards that low there, that 170 handle. So very similar to CAD yen, I feel this would be looking at that 15-minute time frame. Let's have a look at the 30-minute time frame. Yeah, got that kind of bullish rejection back down towards where that original buy-in really started to kick in the market. But any kind of changes here as well, I feel you've got this sort of area of volume as well. If I zoom out a little bit, you got that consolidation, which really starts from sort of 170.20 up here into those highs there around 170.77. So that would be a target area for me. There's been big volume coming in there. We've seen sellers breach that volume, right? So if we start to see the market start to make higher lows and higher highs, then it would make sense to target this zone, because they would want to see if sellers defend this level or give up, right? And plus the yen is still a positive carry, you know, it's a really good carry trade for traders. So any kind of yen strength at the moment, I think, would be met with some selling pressure because of that positive swap charges. Okay. Dollar CAD pushing lower as well. All right then, guys, I'm going to leave it there. We've been running around 50 minutes. So I'm going to leave it there. I've got a little bit more analysis to do. I will catch you in a video tomorrow. But thank you to everybody that that commented and left a comment. And if you could leave a like, I would really, really appreciate that. So, yeah, thank you to everybody. Joffrey, thanks, John. Good session. Would be interested, one with the deep explanation examples of your strategy, mapping out trades if possible. Yeah, hopefully we can do a little bit more of that. Hopefully you've seen a little bit more of an idea of that today. You know, like I said, I think CAD yen is a really good one to take a look at right now. And, yeah, already Aussie dollar long. So I'll take a look at those. But yeah, thank you for everybody that joined. CG, thank you. Joffrey, Ratish, Melvin, welcome to the stream and thank you. Vincent, as well as always, really appreciate you turning up and commenting. And I will catch you all next week on Tuesday. And until then, safe trading. Hope it all goes well. We've got big data coming up tomorrow, actually. The US PCE. I might do a live stream around that. Let me see what time that's at. I do have I might not be able to do one then. No, I won't be able to do one at that time. I'll do a video beforehand anyway, kind of giving you some ideas of levels to watch on what pairs and whatnot. So keep an eye out for that. But yeah, that's a big slice of data coming up tomorrow. So we need to be aware of what's going on in that. So I'll send you a video out on that. So thank you. Like I said, have a great weekend, guys. And I'll catch you soon.